goes into the desert, creates chaos, and and then it just drives away and looks normal and looks classy doing it all, just like a hitman does. My name is Isa Salim. I'm born and raised in Abu Dhabi. I'm a multimedia editor and a huge car enthusiast. I drive a Land Cruiser, 2021 Land Cruiser, and I chose that car simply, it's been a childhood favorite actually, since I was a kid. I believe my love for cars started from an early age, I think around 8 or 9, and it had a lot to do with the car culture we have in Abu Dhabi. Namely, when I was a kid, I remember my parents taking me to car museums and local car shows. And also, we have Sheikh Hamad bin Hamdan Nahyan has one of the most famous car collections in the world, inshallah. It's in the Guinness World Records. So that played a big role in my love for cars growing up. So I remember when I was 19, I think, I drove a Lexus LX 570, it's a Land Cruiser. We say a station with maquillage, so that means Land Cruiser with makeup. That's what it always was to me. It's prettier than a Land Cruiser, but it's pretty much the same thing. I'd say when I was younger, I used to think of it more of a shallow way, where I wanted to compete with people. Even the way that reflected in the car I drove and how my car looked. The first modification I did was headers, then I got an exhaust from someone who's not an exhaust specialist, so it was very noisy. And I didn't want it to be noisy. Exhausts aren't meant to be noisy, they're meant to aid performance, help the exhaust flow, so your car should be quicker and stronger, but not necessarily be more noisy, contrary to what most people think. I love things to be unassuming. I don't like to drag attention, actually. I like it to be as quiet as possible. And you can make a quiet exhaust system, it's very possible, but I think a lot of people in the Emirates, a lot of builders or fabricators are still used to customers demanding a louder one. Saved up my money and I supercharged it so I could be one of the fastest. And I kept getting wider spaces so the wheels came out, and it showed that I was someone who is maybe aggressive, or I wanted to be the fastest or the best. But as I grew older, I made it more about me and things that I wanted to do. So the car I work with now, for instance, has more of a classic appearance. It doesn't look very unique, but actually it's very capable. My Land Cruiser in particular says that not only am I diverse, but I like to be below the radar and unassuming, you could say. I'm building it to be a sleeper. A sleeper is a car which is unassuming, but is actually high performance, whether it's engine-wise or off-road. In my case, it's off-road. So it definitely says I'm someone who likes to have fun and explore and be adventurous, but I like to be quiet about my achievements and what I do on a regular basis. It looks like any regular black Land Cruiser driving down the road, but I've actually done quite a few things. So I have a set of King shocks, 2.5 King shocks, and we've modified the shock itself we've re-shimmed it and revalved it to be stiffer and more aggressive. You could say it's a more aggressive valving. Front total chaos upper control arms. My latest addition was a set of 17-inch Dakar rims from Braid. Dakar wheels were around for a while, but they're quite new on the Land Cruiser. And G-Lander tires. Moving into electricity, I have a Baha Design S8 light, 2 Squadron Pros from Baha Design as well, and the fog lights as a fog light replacement. I also have a rear chase light from Baha Design, and a CB radio for communications. And that's all I've done so far. It's quite straightforward. I do have some plans for the future, but honestly, as an off-road build, it's more than capable. More importantly, the car becomes more reliable this way. I don't really, it gets to off-road in a more sustainable way, you could say. I always believe that if you're more flashy and more noisy, you have a lot of insecurities you're trying to hide. So I wanted to be more classy, more sophisticated. If I could describe my car in one word, it would be diverse. Diverse because since I was a kid, I've noticed that I've always loved functionality. Even as a kid, most kids love to draw sport cars on their papers and love like Lamborghinis and stuff. But I've actually loved off-road cars and their versatility. That's the word. And the Land Cruiser is that for me. My previous car, which as I said is technically a Land Cruiser, I built it it was once a family car. It was once upon a time a family car. My mom drove the car. And then one day I took, sadly for the car, and it became a supercharged 600 horsepower SUV. So it became a bit of a daily use, but kind of a race car as well. And then I made it into an off-road car, and then I made it back into a family car. So that's the beauty of Land Cruisers, I think, is that they're so diverse. You can use it for anything, whether you're going for a midlife crisis or you want to go off-road and go on an adventure. It can be that for you. That's why I love them so much. Everything I've done with cars and in the car scene, you could say, has contributed to growth. So yes, when I was younger, I think I didn't mind being louder and making my car a certain way and looking more aggressive and competing with others. But as I grew older, I knew that wasn't the only way to do that. I had more commitments, and I had more things to do at university. Then I started working. That doesn't mean the hobby dies; it stays. But the way you enjoy the hobby, it changes a bit. I can't afford to get pulled over more. I can't pay more fines. There's more commitments I have now. I have to be certain places at certain times. I need my car for daily commutes. I live in Dubai and I work in Abu Dhabi most of the time, so I can't afford to not have my car and always have it in workshops. So then it became more about being a sport and not really impressing others, but training myself to be better and allow it to improve me as a person. It's equivalent to a canvas, and I use the car as a canvas to paint who I am as a person. So that's how I connected to creativity and self-expression. More into creativity on its own, also with cars, with modifying cars in particular, you're faced with a challenge sometimes. And to work with those challenges, you have to find a solution. You have to create a solution a lot of times. And that takes a lot of creativity and problem solving. And I felt that it's actually built me as a person, and in terms of not only my creativity, but my problem solving skills outside of the car community, even at work or in school or in life. I faced a lot of challenges in this hobby actually, and with or without cars, I overthink a lot. I used to get really anxious and worry about every detail. So it was not really practical, nor was it healthy. So if I got one scratch in the car or something was out of place, I'd freak out about it, and it would consume me a lot. When I started getting into off-roading, I noticed that scratches and small damages can't be avoided sometimes, and it's part of the hobby. You can't really go off-road without at least once or a couple of times getting a scratch or a dent somewhere. And because I loved it so much, I learned not to mind it. I learned that things do get fixed easily, whether it's a car or other things, especially materialistic objects. It's not really a concern. We do have a lot of great car clubs and groups that are making the scene more sophisticated and really beautiful, but there's still a lot of troublemakers, I think, and the general public tends to think of the car culture as one that's dangerous or reckless, but it's really not. I think it's just the way a lot of people approach it. If I were to have a message for the car communities we have here, it would be to continue beautifying the roads, continue enjoying the hobby, but make sure you keep it true to what it is, something that's beautiful, something that's fun for a lot of us, somewhere we can express ourselves, through a great network, a beautiful network, a community where we can all connect and enjoy the hobby together. I'd also say to make sure to be responsible and to set a good example in how we enjoy cars, because obviously there's a lot of illegal activity and recklessness within the hobby. So definitely we need to find a way to be responsible in how we act and to set a good example for other people in the community, and to show people what cars and what car culture really is. It's an art. So we need to make sure we keep it that way. It's our responsibility to do that. If my car was a person, I think it would be Mark Wahlberg. I always actually imagine, I used to actually call in general, the Land Cruiser, the EXR trim actually. The EXR trim is is a base model Land Cruiser, but it comes with a 5.7 V8 engine. I always call it Mark Wahlberg because unlike the higher trim, unlike the VXR or the Lexus, it doesn't have a rear spoiler and it doesn't have a body kit. So it looks much more, to me it looks much more athletic, but still muscular. That's how I see Mark Wahlberg. I was, in terms of fitness and my gym, he was always kind of my benchmark when I work out, because he has like a very fit and very strong body, but he's also not too big. You know, you wouldn't notice him from really far. But what's funny is my friends don't call it Mark Wahlberg, they call it the Hitman. And the reason they call it the Hitman is because, like I said, it's a sleeper, it's black also, so that's kind of like the suit that it's in, like Jason Statham kind of vibes. And it goes into the desert, creates chaos, and and then it just drives away and looks normal and looks classy doing it all, just like a Hitman does, you know.